So I had a friend in college who was gorgeous. She was gorgeous by everyone's standards. Not just the guys, of course, knew that she was gorgeous, but she was the kind of gorgeous that girlfriends of the guys would nudge them in the rib and say, "Hey, look how gorgeous she is." Like she was gorgeous in every retrospect. And I think one of the things that made her so attractive wasn't just her looks or her personality or her spirituality, but there was a commitment that she made early on in life that I believe made her uber attractive. See, when she was in middle school, she felt like God asked her to not kiss anyone until she got married. That's a big ask for a little junior high girl to make, but she felt like God made her. She felt like God made that ask, and so she responded and she said, "Okay." So junior high went, high school went, college went, and sure enough, she hadn't kissed anyone. So of course, all the dudes are swooning over her because not only was she gorgeous and attractive, but she also played piano and she was athletic. She was smart. She was personable. She was my really, really good friend. And so one after one, guys tried to court her and seemed to strike out every time. But there was one guy who was incredible. He was incredible. And this guy, his name was Jared. This guy went and courted her, and he ended up falling in love with her, and she ended up falling in love with him. And then before long, they became engaged. So I had the pleasure of being in this bridal party with the husband, or with Jared and Stephanie. And you know, I like about half of the weddings that I go to. Anyone else in here like it? Like I like about half the weddings I go to. But everyone was looking forward to this marriage. Everyone wanted an invite card to be able to show up to this one. And it isn't because it was a very extravagant wedding. In fact, I think that they probably only paid $5,000 towards their wedding. Their wedding was in our college chapel, and they had their reception at a nearby park. And so it's not just for the extravagance of the wedding, but everyone was looking forward to the ceremony. Now, when was the last time you went to a wedding and you were looking forward to the ceremony? Because everyone knew what was on the end of the ceremony. So they got together. Jared was standing at the front, and Stephanie was coming down the aisle. They got together. They held hands. They exchanged vows. They shared their declaration of intent, and then they had communion, and then the pronouncement: "You may kiss the bride." So many times at this moment, you know, it's a nice little courtesy clap, right? Like, "Bravo, good ceremony. Open bar, let's go." No, there was no courtesy clapping in this chapel on this day. On this day, it was like Stephen Curry hitting the three-pointer with two seconds left on the shot clock. In this moment, in this chapel, on this day, it was like Buster Posey hitting it out in the 10th inning for a walk-off home run. No, this was no courtesy clap. No, the place erupted. 5 feet away, I have never experienced such an electric kiss like this before. Man, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Just look at that. The place erupted because that kiss, it meant something. Now, there's another picture right after this. It was actually the kiss after the kiss. It was like the second or third kiss. And actually, here I am with my hands up in the air like it was a touchdown. I was like, yes! Everyone could cheer for this. Everyone could. Because she waited so long, and he waited so long. And is it silly to agree as a junior high girl I'm not going to kiss anyone till my wedding day? Maybe. But because she said yes to the ask, she was able to be a part of something really, really special. A couple months ago, my wife and I were sitting down at our dining room table, and I felt like God had asked me to start giving more money to Sacred. Now, we're already a tithing family, which means that we give 10% of our income back to God, but I still felt like God was asking us to give a little bit more. Now, the timing in which he asked us to do this was really inconvenient because we had just received notice that we are going to get a $400 rent raise, coming up in the next month. How many guys have seen that little letter, the $400 rent raise around here? Yeah, it's disgusting. It's disgusting, but we received that $400 rent raise. And so, meanwhile, on one side we had the $400 rent raise, and on the other side, I felt like God was asking us to give more money back to Sacred Church. And so we agreed, you know what, we're going to do it. So we got online and went to give to Sacred.Church. We set up a reoccurring gift right then and there. I went behind the scenes. I tried to take away every subscription I could. I said, okay, we're going to go out to eat less. And I tried to make a little bit more margin, but the margin wasn't going to be enough. But you know what, we're obedient, we're faithful, we're just going to believe that God is going to show up. Now, the past couple months were not easy months. They were really, really tight. They were very, very difficult. I had to ask for help from God. I said, God, help me out, man. This is brutal. It was brutal. But I think something else happened. And the reason why I share this story is because I think that some of you guys may have got that same sense from God a couple months ago. Because within the past 3 months, Sacred Church's giving has gone up over 20%. Now, if you're in church world, you know that that's not normal to have a giving increase going into summer, but yet we experienced it. And so we got together with our advisory board. Our advisory board looked at our finances that had been audited by a third-party accountant, and they looked at what we were bringing in and our ministry expenses, and then they looked at the stipend I was getting. My stipend was not enough to carry for rent, but I was very thankful for it. And so our advisory board sat around the table and said, okay, Josh, you're getting a raise. Hallelujah! That's awesome! They said I'm getting a raise. And so it covers now my rent and, my medical payments, every month, which is incredible. And it's awesome. And I firmly believe because I answered the ask that God gave us a couple months ago, even though it didn't add up on paper, God was faithful to us just a week ago. God answered the call. So first of all, I want to share that story because I want to thank you guys because you guys are so generous. I want to thank you guys for that. And I want to charge you that with your faithfulness, God will answer that in generosity himself. It doesn't make a lot of sense when you're a junior high girl to say, I'm not going to kiss anyone till my wedding day. It doesn't make a lot of sense to say, I'm going to give more money to the church when you have less money to give. But this is a common theme in the kingdom of God. There's 1,000 different stories, exactly like the ones that I shared with you, because it is common in those who are in the faith journey. And this is the theme that we see constantly. If you want all that God has for you, do all that God asks of you. If you want all that God has for you, do all that God asks of you. We're going to be in 1 Samuel chapter 15 today. We're going to be reading about a man named Saul. And Saul was appointed to be the king. God had great plans for Saul. God had great desires for Saul. But because Saul fell short in answering the ask of what God desired, Saul fell short in receiving everything that God desired for him. Starting off in verse 1, it says, one day Samuel said to Saul, it was the Lord who told me to anoint you as king of his people, Israel. Now listen to this message from the Lord. This is what the Lord of heaven's armies has declared. I decided to settle the accounts with the nations of Amalek, for opposing Israel when they came from Egypt. Now go and completely destroy the entire Amalekite nation, men, women, children, babies, cattle, sheep, goats, camels, and donkeys. So Saul mobilized his army at Telaim. There were 200,000 soldiers from Israel and 10,000 men from Judah. Then Saul slaughtered the Amalekites from Helveh all the way to Shur, east of Egypt. He captured Agag, the Amalekite king, but completely destroyed everyone else. This is important. Saul and his men spared Agag's life. He spared the king's life and kept the best of the sheep and the goats and the cattle and the fat calves and the lambs, everything, in fact, that appealed to them. They destroyed only what was worthless or of poor quality. So what was the instruction that Samuel gave to Saul? Go to this nation and destroy everything. But what did Saul do? He went in and destroyed only what was not of value to him. He kept the king alive, I imagine, so that he could gloat over the king that he destroyed his entire people. And he decided to keep all the cattle and the fat calves and the sheep, basically everything that it was of value for him. Now I get it, sometimes God asks you to do something that you don't want to. But Saul decided that his decision was better than God's instruction. Saul decided that his idea was better when he tailored it to his own opinions. So skipping down to verse 12, it says, early in the next morning, Samuel went to Saul. Someone told him Saul went to the town of Carmel to set up a monument to himself. Then he went to Gilgal. When Samuel finally found him, Saul greeted him cheerfully. May the Lord bless you, he said. I have carried out the Lord's command. Now, did he carry out the Lord's command? No, he didn't carry out the Lord's command. And so Samuel asked him in verse 14, then what is that bleating of sheep and the goats and the lowing of cattle that I hear? Samuel demanded. Oh, it's true that the army spared the best of the sheep, the goats, and the cattle, Saul admitted. But they're going to sacrifice them to the Lord your God. We have destroyed everything else. So here we have Saul was going to Carmel to set up a monument for himself. Saul greeted Samuel cheerfully, almost gleefully. He was feeling chummy with Samuel because he believed that he did the right thing. Saul was caught in a lie when he said, I destroyed everything, and Samuel's like, then what are those sheep doing around here? So he was caught in a lie when he said that he killed everything. And then Saul was trying to give God something other than what God asked for. Sometimes Clive will get a hold of something that he shouldn't have, right? He has a marker, right? And so we say, you can't have that, but you can have this. How many parents have played that game? Like, oh, thank you for that marker. Here's a spatula, right? And then, oh, you can't have that knife, but here's a plush teddy bear toy. Oh, Clive, you can't have that hair straightener that's still plugged in, but here, you can have the marker back. Right? We try to play this little game of like, you can't have this, but then you can have that. But of course, every parent in this room knows how often does that trick work, right? It never works. It never works. Clive always wants what he can't have. He always knows the thing that is of more value because it's always the thing that I won't give him. I think there's a lesson to be learned here. That exchanging one thing for another is a bad trick that doesn't even work on kids, yet we think that God won't notice. God is not impressed with our sort of bait and switch exchange when he's not looking sort of scenarios. Because he knows exactly what is going on. Clive knows, why wouldn't God know? But it's something that we always do, right? We do it all the time with our finances. I won't give you what you ask, but I'll give you some of what's convenient. We do it with our sexuality, right? I won't draw the boundaries that you ask, but I will control myself as long as it's convenient. And here Saul is caught in a lie. He's keeping the cattle for himself. He's kept the king alive, and he tries to pass it off as a sacrifice. When he gets caught, he says, oh no, I'm just keeping that for the sacrifice. God is not impressed or fooled by our ability to bait and switch, to switch one thing out for another. God asked for something, and Saul didn't answer the ask that God had. And so he continues in verse 16. Samuel said to Saul, "Stop. Listen to what the Lord told me last night." "What did he tell you?" Saul asked. And Samuel told him, "Although you may think little of yourself, are you not the leader of the tribes of Israel? The Lord has anointed you king of Israel, and the Lord has sent you on a mission and told you to go completely destroy all the sinners of the Amalekites until they are all dead. Why didn't you obey the Lord? Why did you rush for the plunder and do what is evil in the Lord's sight?" "But I did obey the Lord," Saul insisted. He doesn't even see it. He's blind. "I carried out the mission he gave me. I brought back King Agag, but I destroyed everyone else. Then my troops brought back some of the best sheep, the goats, the cattle, and the plunder of sacrifice to the Lord your God in Gilgal." But Samuel replied, "What is more pleasing to the Lord? Your burnt offerings and sacrifices, or your obedience to his voice? Listen, obedience is better than sacrifice, and submission is better than offering fats of rams. Rebellion is as sinful as witchcraft, and stubbornness as bad as worshiping idols. So because you have rejected the command of the Lord, he has rejected you as king. Because you rejected the Lord your God, he has rejected you." God had an ask for Saul, and because Saul didn't answer the ask in full, Saul fell short of receiving all that God had for him. I want you to live a life full of everything that God desires for you. I want you to have all of the joy, all of the favor. I want you to have all of the fulfillment. I want you to have all of the beauty, the discovery, the wholeness that God has for you. But if you want all that God has for you, do all that God asks of you. There's a couple of reasons and motivations why we sometimes don't answer the ask. The first one is that we are insecure. I love what Samuel highlighted here. You would think at first glance that Saul disobeyed God and Samuel because he thought too highly of himself. He kept all this stuff for himself because he was full of pride. But Samuel actually highlights the opposite. He says, although you think little of yourself, are you not the leader of the tribes of Israel? Saul was insecure, which is why he disobeyed the ask and he didn't answer the call. And so Samuel says, are you not already the leader? Are you not appointed and anointed for this mission? Didn't God choose you out of everyone for this task? Why are you so insecure that you wouldn't answer the ask? I think it's because Saul didn't believe in his heart something that maybe you and I struggle with often. God's plan for me are better than my plans for me. Saul assumed that his plans were going to work out better than God's plans. And so when God made the ask, he decided not to answer the call in full, simply because he thought that his plans were better. Why would I kill the fat calves when I can sacrifice them later? Why would I kill the king when I can boast in front of him later? And so even though it didn't make sense for Saul, he didn't answer it, and I believe it was rooted in his own insecurities. But church, I want us to be convinced of this truth, that God doesn't ask and deprive, God asks and provides. He doesn't ask you to do something and then deprive you of that thing. He asks something of you so that he can provide for you something better than that thing. So when God went to Stephanie and he said, I don't want you to kiss anyone until your marriage date, he wasn't depriving her of anything because he provided something for her far greater than all those cheap kisses along the way. And God didn't deprive me of anything when he said, I want you to go above and beyond and give back to sacred, because he provided for me something greater than what I actually gave in the first place. And so God is constantly asking us for something so that he can provide more abundantly. But sometimes we're not convinced that God's plans are better than mine, so we decide to do things our own way rather than his way. So we don't listen to what God asks because sometimes we're insecure. Also, we are also very distracted. Why did you rush for the plunder? It's like they went in with one plan and then they saw the plunder. They're like, oh, this isn't a poor third world nation that doesn't have anything. These guys are stacked with cash. These cattle are fat. I could do something with this. So they got distracted because the temptation was too great. It's really easy to answer the ask when the ask isn't very big. But when you're all of a sudden sacrificing that is of value to you and it is appealing to your eye, you get distracted from what God has asked and you decide to do what your inhibitions tell you to do. Not only are we insecure and distracted, we're also blind. Remember, how many times did Saul say, but I did obey the Lord? He just didn't he was blind. So many of us walk through our life and our days not answering the ask of God because we're so blind to the things that he's asking us to do. We don't give any margin for him to speak to us. We don't open up our book to see what God has for us. We don't even consider that God may be asking me to live a different kind of lifestyle and a different kind of ask than everything that we see around us. We're blind to it. So how can we answer the ask if we don't know what the ask is because we simply don't make room for it? Not only are we insecure and distracted and blind, but we're resisting. It said submission is better than offering. We're resisting what God is doing. It's like we have that defense pose. We have that defense pose up, right? We're like, don't come any closer. But some of us, we're not only resisting, we're actually rebelling. So our defense pose has gone from a defense to an offense. And we're actually pushing back on the things that God has for us. And so every time that God brings up a certain topic about a certain thing, we don't even just defend ourselves, but we begin to attack it. We attack the messenger. We attack the text. We attack the person. We attack whatever it is that's bringing us this truth because it makes us uncomfortable. Because we know that rebellion is as sinful as witchcraft. So we resist. We rebel. And we're stubborn. We take our arms and we fold them back. We harden our heart. We decide we don't care what it is that God asks of us. We are not going to answer for this. I want you to have everything that God has for you. And if you want everything that God has for you, you have to do everything that God asks of you. But in this room, there are some things that are universal asks. There's something we should be quick to forgive and slow to anger. That is a universal ask. We should be generous with our time and our generosity for people in need. That is a general ask. But there are some things that are not general asks. And so I want to throw this out there today, that God won't ask the same thing from every person, but he will ask something of every person. And so God didn't ask every king to kill the Amalekites, but he did ask Saul to kill the Amalekites. Jesus didn't ask everyone to sell everything that they had and give it to the poor, but he did ask the young rich ruler to sell everything he had and give it to the poor. God did not ask every girl to not kiss anyone until her wedding day, except for Stephanie and my daughter. But he did ask those individuals those things. And so every person that I know has been asked, every person that I know has received, that has received all that God has had for them, has had something that God has asked of them. That doesn't mean they live perfect lives or easy lives, as I mentioned to you. Those are often some of the hard and stress-filled sort of seasons in our life. But their lives are more satisfying. They're full of discovery. They are full of provision, and they're full of joy that they can't achieve with their own strength. What is the ask that God is asking of you? I have a couple questions, reflection questions that I want you to sit on. I want you to write these down. I want you to take these home, and I want you to pray for them as we go from here. Am I living the full life that God has for me? Am I living that full life? Are you convinced that what you're living today is 100% of what God had planned for you? I want you to ask, what has God asked of me? What has God asked of you? Sometimes it's drawing boundaries here, giving more over there, being more forgiving where it hurts, trusting where it's difficult. What is God asking of you? I want you to ask, what do I need to do to answer God's ask? Practically, what does that look like? For me, it was setting up a reoccurring gift. For my friend Stephanie, it was telling people that she wasn't going to kiss anyone so they could hold her accountable. For other people in this room, what is the practical step for the ask that God is asking of you? And the last question is who knows what God has asked of you so that they can help you become who God has called you to be. Samuel was able to call out Saul because Samuel knew what Saul had been asked of. And Saul was oblivious to his own rebellion. Remember, he was chummy thinking that he was in the right. But how long would Saul's life have gone on him thinking that he was in the right if he didn't have Samuel speaking into him? How many of you guys, how many of us don't give anyone permission into our story and into our journey, into our faith process, to where no one could call you out even if they tried because you either have shut them out or they don't even know what to look for? Who is in your life by name that knows the ask and can call you out and encourage you and cheer with you and challenge you when the time comes? As the worship team comes forward today, I really want you to have all that God desires of you. I want your marriage to be rich and full of adventure. I want your soul to just be whole and joy-filled. I want your life to be lived prosperously so that you can give more than you could ever imagine. I want you to live a life of faith journeys and adventures and not be bored and on the sidelines trying to be a participation from the outside kind of Christian, but I want you to be right in the middle of what God is doing. I want you to have all that God wants for you. But if you want all that God wants for you, you have to do all that God asks of